Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today I'm going to be going over how to input a listing into the MLS, and I'm going to also include some information about how to get a listing agreement signed. Here in Central Florida, we are part of Stellar MLS, so this will all be specific to Stellar MLS. And all right, so let's get started. This is Daniel Betancourt with Team Betancourt of eXp Realty here in Central Florida. So if you're watching this and you're not part of the team, you can check us out on teambetancourt.com. So first thing, you log into Stellar MLS. And if you have membership, if you don't have membership to Stellar MLS and you're in Central Florida, that's part of getting going in real estate. You have to be a member of the MLS. So I'm going to go fast because this is a video and you can watch it and rewind as often as you want. So first you go log into Stellar MLS as you always would. Then you hover over the links section. Once you're in the links section, you scroll to the bottom, and there is this one, Transaction Desk. Form Simplicity is a competitor of Transaction Desk. They're both free to us with MLS membership. So click on Transaction Desk. And once this opens, you can create a new transaction. So I'm just going to use an address for example purposes. So you click on this home button, and this takes you to your home screen where you can begin a transaction. You're going to click add, so that way you can add a new transaction. And you're going to name this transaction. I'm just going to use the address of a home that I sold in the past, 1500 Errol Parkway. It's easy to remember, and I use it a lot. Okay, so 1500 Errol Parkway is the name of this transaction. I'm naming the transaction. Okay, so once you're a little bit more skilled at Transaction Desk, you can create templates that have all the documents that you need for various transactions. So I've got documents in here for a traditional listing package, for new team members who are joining my team here, condo listing package, coming soon listing, and buyer packages. Those are all templates that I've created. But we're not going to use a template because if you're watching this video wanting to learn how to input a listing, you probably haven't created templates yet. So the next step would be to choose the type of transaction you're working on. We're doing a residential listing. Import data. Okay, so we're going to import public records on a particular home. So select source. You always want to check this one, Realist. Click on that. That's basically our connection to the public records of various counties in Florida. Now, you can copy and paste the tax ID. Like if you were in the property appraiser's website and you looked up 1500 Errol Parkway, it would show you the tax ID, and you can copy and paste it in here. But for this purpose, I'm going to show you how to find it. You click this search icon, and you can just type in the address. So we're going to go street number 1500, street name only, Errol, Errol, and we're just going to try with that and see what happens. Search tax data. Boom, here it is, 1500 Errol Parkway. I click this bubble to select this home, click select, and now it's populated that information here. Next step, add me as the listing agent and use the wizard. The wizard kind of walks you step by step through the tasks that you have to do. Then create. So now I've created a new transaction in my transaction desk, and the wizard gives you these steps, step 1 of 5. So here in this first step, we're just overlooking, this is the transaction type, transaction status, address information, property information. So the property type is residential, doesn't have an MLS number. So everything that's populated in here is totally fine with me. I don't spend time making any adjustments in here, so this is fine. You don't you don't even have to click on residential. I normally skip this step one because I'm happy with what's populated in here. Then you go to step two, transaction dates. This is another one. I skip these because I can edit this information once I'm into the documents that I need. So I prefer to do it that way rather than doing it in this wizard. So step three are the contacts associated with this transaction. So uh, it's already imported me in here because I created the transaction. I'm the listing agent. eXp Realty is the listing broker. It has populated the name of the seller based on public records. Normally, it has it in here backwards where it has the first name last. I like to go in and change it. So I'm going to click on the name, and I am going to change it to Richard and Leon as the last name. Okay, so same thing here. I'm going to make it Richard. So this is the seller. So if this is a listing, the seller is my customer. So first name, I want to make sure this is correct in this process. So first name, middle name, last name, email address. So we're just going to say richard@aol.com for example purposes only. Now, legal name, you can leave that blank because the name is here and it'll just populate the appropriate legal name. You would only use legal name if it's different than this. So, for example, if the person who is signing is Richard Duncan, but the property is in the name of the Richard Duncan Leon estate, then for legal name you would say Richard Duncan Leon estate. But most of the time it's not something like that. So all you need is first name, last name, and email address, and that's it. Preferred signature is always just going to show up the name that you've chosen, and preferred initials are going to show the initials here. If for some reason they have a different name they prefer to use or different initials they prefer to use, then you would type that in here. But most of the time you don't need that. Then you would add this person to your address book by clicking this box. And if you want to be extra particular, you can add their information, phone number here to the address tab of the transaction contact. So I'm not going to add this to my address book because this is a fictitious person, but I'm going to save it to this transaction. Okay, if there was another seller, like let's say Richard Leon is married to Mary Leon, you want to add another transaction contact, create new transaction contact. Her transaction type will be seller, and her name is Mary Leon, and her email address is mary@aol.com, and we're going to save that. Okay, so we're done here. On my team, I have an assistant, and I also have a transaction coordinator. So if I want to add other parties to these contacts, I can do that. So I can click Add, create a new transaction contact. So if I want to copy someone else with these documents, I can say I'm going to add my assistant. So General, and her name, well, I can just choose her. So I can add her here, for example, Eva Lejo, eva@teambetancourt.com. Now she's part of the transaction as well. Just, she's involved in the transaction. She's not a seller, but she's involved in the transaction. So this is how you would do that. You can add contacts. So that's how you create a contact. But if I wanted to add an existing contact in here, I can do that. Add existing contact. So I mentioned I have a transaction coordinator. Her name is Mary Carmen. And here she is, Mary Carmen at teambetancourt.com. I click on her and I add her. And I'll just save it. So now I've added other parties to the transaction that are not sellers. That's how you would utilize that. And as you save contacts into your system, you can always click on contacts here and see them all. This row, this column here is all associated with this transaction. So if I click any of these buttons, it's going to show me details associated with 1500 Arrow Parkway. This column is associated with your transaction desk account. So if I click on contacts here, it's going to show me all of my contacts. If I click on contacts here, it's going to show me these contacts. So hope that helps. If you want to create templates and other things, you can click on the settings here and look through that. So we're going to move to the next step. Step 4 of 5. Step 4 of 5 is we want to add forms. Which forms are we going to use to create this listing? So remember, this part of the video, we are choosing the listing documents that we would need to list a home. So for example, this might be if we're meeting a seller later today or tomorrow, I'm preparing for that meeting. So the forms that I need, I will click add a form. These are the forms. So when you click add, you're taken to these folders. Each of these folders have lots of different forms in them. Each of these folders have forms for various transaction types. So Fannie Mae forms, Florida Realtor, FR stands for Florida Realtors forms. So anything FR was created by the Florida Association of Realtors. Next is FRBAR, FAR bar, some people call it. These forms are ones that we use. These forms were written by the Florida Association of Realtors along with the Florida Bar attorneys. So these are a lot of the documents that we use for the purchase agreements. The preferred documents are in here. Florida Realtors have their own versions, but the ones that are commonly used are these FAR bar documents. And Stellar MLS, they have their own documents that you can choose. So what I do is I search because I know which ones I'm going to need. So whenever you list a home, the recommended listing agreement to use is the exclusive right of sale. Okay, exclusive right of sale listing agreement. You learned about this in real estate school. Exclusive right of sale listing agreement allows us to be the only listing broker and listing agent that the seller chooses. So they can't hire multiple people to sell their home. It gives us the exclusive right of the sale. So then you can choose which relationship you want to have with your seller. Do you want to be a transaction broker, a single agent, a non-representation? Most brokers recommend that you do this form as a transaction broker. You can speak with your broker and decide what's preferred, but almost every broker is going to be okay with you choosing this one. The exclusive right of sale listing agreement for transaction brokers. This is the title of it. This is how you can find it if you wanted to search for the name of this one. This is the ERS 18TB. So you can research the differences, but transaction broker is the document that I prefer to use. So I'm going to check that box, and I'm going to, so that puts this box into my basket. Now I can look for other documents as well. Most homes in Florida are part of homeowners association, so I'm just going to look for that one because that's a form that we need to get signed. So I typed in the search bar homeowner, and it gives me these three options. We're going to use this one, homeowner association community disclosure. I'm going to click that bubble. Now there's two documents in my basket. If the home was built before 1978, you want a lead-based paint disclosure. The lead-based paint disclosure is right here. If it was not built before 1978, you don't need that. And every listing requires a seller's disclosure. Okay, so if you just type the word sellers in here. Here's a little kind of glitch with the system. If I typed in sellers like I did here, it gives me these options. Seller's property disclosure update, which is if you have to update your seller's disclosure, you want to use this form. It also gives me the seller's disclosure for condominiums. So if you're listing a condominium, you want to use the seller's property disclosure specifically for condominiums. It has two versions, one that is fillable. So this would be one that you can fill online or in person and have the person sign in person, or the authenticized version, which allows the seller to complete it as part of the signing process if you're using an electronic signature process called authenticized, which is part of Transaction Desk. If you're not getting it signed electronically and it's a condo, you want to use this one, condominium fillable, SPDC1 fillable. You would check this bubble. In this scenario, this is not a condo, so I'm not going to use that one. But where's the other one? It's not showing up. It's because for some reason you have to do seller apostrophe S. And now here it is, seller's property disclosure residential. And here's the authenticized version for the seller's property disclosure residential. So this is a house, so I'm not using the condo version. I want to use this version. And in my example, I'm not going to get it signed electronically, so I'm just going to use this form. I'll get it signed in person. So I'm going to click that bubble. Now there's 4 documents in my basket. I also wanted to mention if you're dealing with a condo, you can type in condo here, and you would also want to use the condo association disclosure. Not necessarily the homeowners association. So if you're in a condo community and there's one association, it's always going to be a condo association. Some condo communities are part of a larger association, so you would use a condo association rider and a homeowners association rider. It just depends on the community. If there's 2 association fees, there are 2 associations. But this one is not a condo. So I've got 4 documents in here, and we're going to also search the MLS data. Let's look up data. All right, so when you type into the search bar data, there's another document here for Stellar MLS. If you're inputting a residential property, you want to choose this residential data entry form. There's also one for vacant land. There's also one for rental. These are different types of properties that we can input into the MLS, and there's a form for each different type. If you're selling a business, if you're selling a commercial lease, if you're selling a commercial property, if you're selling an income-producing property like a duplex, for example, or a triplex, if you're selling a rental property that you're listing for rent, this is a residential sale, so we're going to choose this one. So there is also a listing agreement for each one of these. We're dealing with residential property, so we're using the residential data entry form, and we're using the residential listing agreement. If you were listing land or a rental property or any of these other ones, there's a different listing agreement that you would use. So now we have 5 forms in the basket. Add. EXP requires the wire fraud. So I just clicked on add another form, wire, and here's wire fraud prevention notice. Some brokers want this done and others don't. So we're going to click add there.